Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for cannabis.
Stop arresting patients! Stop arresting patients! Stop arresting patients!
Welcome to CMMNJ TV.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
I'm Ken Walski, Executive Director of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana, New Jersey. The mission of our organization is to educate the public about the benefits of marijuana. Marijuana is a safe, effective, and inexpensive therapeutic agent for a wide variety of diseases, symptoms, and conditions. No patient should suffer needlessly without it, and no patient should ever go to jail for following the advice of a doctor. Join us and learn more about the exciting science of medical marijuana. Welcome to CMMNJ TV. I'm Ken Walski, Executive Director of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana, New Jersey. I'm here in the Princeton Community TV studio today with Frank Taney, a lawyer who's a well-experienced lawyer in litigation and other areas of law by the name of Frank Taney. So Frank, thank you so much for coming here today.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
Frank, tell us about your law background.
Okay. Well, I've been practicing 20 years, and I'm admitted in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Although, to an increasing extent, my practice is national and even international. Have two halves of my practice. One is a litigation and trial practice, and the other is more transactional and counseling. And in my travels, I've become acquainted with a number of people who are involved in cannabis-friendly businesses, and also more generally with the legalization movement. And for a number of reasons, philosophically, it's a cause that I agree with, and I'm happy to get involved with and talk about and help support.
Oh, that's great, Frank. And so now the real question is, and the devil may well be in the details, of what legalization would look like. What legalization, taxation, and regulation of marijuana would actually look like. We just heard from some people in Michigan, and we know that in Oregon, some of the issues have been when the legalization comes about, the medical marijuana program is harmed in some ways. There are many aspects to this. So what does legalization mean to you?
Well, there are a number of different approaches one could take. We have, back if you go back far enough, legalization, marijuana was legal just about everywhere, and then countries gradually made it illegal. And we have a bunch of different approaches in the various states where it is generally legal. What I would advocate, and this is sort of from my economics background and political background, I suppose, I'd call it free market plus. So is what I would advocate. So you realize that it is a commodity that people want. But that in all realism, some consumer protection is, and also other types of protection to the public is probably warranted. To me, I've never understood any principled distinction between marijuana and alcohol or cigarettes or tobacco. And there are commodities where we have a whole range of consumer protection measures in place, yet we allow the full measure of production. That is, we don't restrict necessarily the types of people who can produce the commodity to nonprofits or government entities. That's sort of a threshold, one of the threshold questions one could get into. In other words, who should be allowed to grow it, to manufacture it?
Right. Now here, New Jersey's medicinal marijuana program that many people regard as a failure. It started over 5 years ago, and only about 5,000 people have actually gotten access to medical marijuana in the state, and there are only 3 alternative treatment centers that are open after 5 years since the bill passed into law. Many people blame the overregulation of the government on the failure of this program to adequately meet the needs of the patients of the state of New Jersey. The original intent, well, what was in the original bill was that patients would be allowed to grow 6 plants. Now a home cultivation provision seemed to guarantee access to at least a floor of access to patients who could not afford to go to an alternative treatment center or to buy it in other ways. And also the original bill allowed for, the vision of the original bill was to allow for alternative treatment centers that were more like collective gardens rather than these alternative treatment centers that we have now that are more like, they're more strictly regulated than full service pharmacies. So, we have cameras watching every aspect of the growing in the alternative treatment centers that feed back into the Department of Health. There's all types of zoning restrictions on the type of facility that an alternative treatment center could be. So I think we're in general agreement that the medicinal marijuana program is overregulated to the point where it's really an ineffective program. Yeah. And this is something that we want to guard against, and when we legalize marijuana, while still accepting some of the benefits of regulation, which is the control, the quality assurance.
Yeah, and I think there's a number of different facets to that. We're not over that hump. I've seen the polls too, and 51, 52% is about as high as I've seen. And what you've got on our side is a demographic shift. You have baby boomers who are in their 50s and 60s who have smoked it or have taken it and turned out okay in their own eyes. They're cops, they're municipal judges, they're municipal prosecutors. And so the momentum is there, but you have to, it's to the benefit of those who would like to legalize marijuana to assure that there are checks and balances in place. So in other words, the same way we do with alcohol and tobacco, the message out there that it is an adult product, for example, right, would probably be wise. That there are regulations in place on potency. So the same way when you go to, you go to a bar, and maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they had the first exposure in this market to these high-test beers from Belgium, and people would drink them and say, "Why am I walking out of here so messed up?" Well, you have potency, should be part of it, right, and also purity and making sure that the contaminant level, if you're going to retail, or if it's a medical use grade, that it's within certain standards, so that the medicinal, in the case of medicinal marijuana, that effect is delivered, because then you have less chance of unpleasant surprises, unpleasant press, the stereotypical, good facts make bad law. The 4-year-old who was handed a joint, and so on the strength of that, bad laws are passed.
Right. But now, would this vision of legalization also allow for home cultivation?
I think it should.
Yeah.
The same way, and I'm going to, a bunch of times I'm going to analogize to alcohol and tobacco, because I believe truly that those are very analogous substances. People enjoy, but there's literature out there that is perhaps, if used to excess, there's adverse health consequences, and when people are impaired, we should have limits on their ability to be driving and doing other things. But so home use, you can make home brew. You can brew home beer, right? You can make moonshine. However, if you want to sell it and you're making it so strong that it'll put somebody in the hospital, it does not strike me as unfair. It does not strike me as a nanny state. Or unduly restrictive of personal liberties and freedoms, to say, if you're going to sell this to other people, there's going to be labeling requirements. You've got to tell people what the potency is. Well, are there contaminants in here, or is there an ingredient list? Are you, if you're RJR, right, and you're saying, aha, cigarettes are dead in this country, but now we can make joints. Now we can make marijuana cigarettes. You want an ingredients list so you know what you're dealing with. Home use is, I think that if it's a legal substance, you should be able to grow it yourself at home, and there is as long as you're not selling it,
right.
You can consume it yourself. Your relatives or your friends come over for Thanksgiving dinner. They want to partake. That's at a personal family level, and it's sort of on your own. And I think that analogizes very well to making beer in your home brew.
Absolutely.
And so what that does, in addition to, in my view, striking an appropriate balance between regulation and personal liberty, it also does wonders for the supply and demand, because part of what we're seeing in Colorado, why have they missed the revenue targets? Because they're overtaxing the legal stuff, and so you create arbitrage opportunities for the illegals, or the black market is a pejorative term, but the non-approved or non-legal sources. And I think especially in the medical marijuana sphere, I don't see the legitimate government interest if you have a serious condition and you know that you're capable of growing some marijuana that will help you, right? I don't see the legitimate government interest in saying, no. Yeah. You can't do that. You have to buy ours at a premium. We've got enough of that, in my opinion, with drugs and medications on patent. Where at least you have the argument, well, to incentivize the billions of dollars of medical research that are required to get a cancer drug or some other kind of drug to market, we give somebody a 20-year patent monopoly. I mean, that's all a patent is. It's a government-sanctioned monopoly for 20 years. So the argument there is at least colorable. If you don't do that, then there's no incentive to deploy that capital. Here, it's if it's a strain that's naturally occurring, you can't patent that, and that's not as a constitutional matter. That's not what patent is supposed to be about. And so that's an example of an artificial restriction. That no, you can't grow it in your backyard. You've got to go to this center. It's one of 3, and you got to pay the toll,
which is $500 an ounce, or over $500 an ounce, which is the most expensive medical marijuana in the country in New Jersey. And it really, and that price really prices so many legitimate patients out of the market. They just simply cannot afford that, Frank. Especially when people are on Social Security disability, making like $1,200 a month, and they want $500 a month for 1 ounce of marijuana. It's just outrageous.
To use an analogy, let's say somebody had a nutritionist background and said, you know what, I've got such and such medical condition, and I've done my research, and through some blend of natural supplements, I can make myself a smoothie, right? And I feed myself 3 of these a day, and guess what? My blood pressure dropped, my cholesterol thinned out, right? So is it? Do we want the government saying no? You can't do that. Yeah. You can't do that. You have to buy that through our inefficient, overpriced, inaccessible system. It's the same thing, it is. Right? Yeah. And you're not in the business. You're not conducting a trade. Right? You're not. It'd be different if you say, okay, this is so good. Now I want to put it in GNC all over the, all over the place. Okay, well now you're conducting a business, and now the free market, the balance for me is all right. The government has to raise money somehow. We need roads. We need an army. That's where I am on the sort of the political spectrum. I'm not a libertarian. There's some balance to be struck. We want to. There's a lot of consumption of this. We want to tax it and regulate it, and not outlaw it, in my opinion. So that's sort of the balance I would draw. That's one man's opinion.
Yeah, obviously you're an adult at 18 in many different ways. You can get married, you can sign a contract, you can go into service. You know, doesn't 18 seem like a more reasonable age for legal access to marijuana therapy?
To me, it does. To me, age of majority. You know, so many things are tied to that. The ability to enter into a binding contract, for example, to go get your head shot off for this country. You know, we let people drive at a you know, in a lesser way at an earlier age. So yeah, now you know the theory behind alcohol at age 21 in most places is, I suppose, well, if you make it 18, that means your 15-year-olders are going to be getting it, or those that look 18, they're an old-looking 16, and you know there's that societal judgment. You know, to get legalization across the finish line, right? So you know, I wouldn't kick and scream about 21, but I would think where my philosophy is, it should be 18. I think the drinking age should be 18. And I think it is the balance. A couple things I want to say about this. Realize that if you want to believe that 52% of the populace is in favor of it, right? That means there's 48% well-meaning people out there that still have a problem with it. All right, and so any legalization measure, you know, it's going to be an all-out land war, you know, of lobbyists and political activity. And so you have to win the hearts and minds of the 5 or 6 that could be perhaps swung at this stage, right? And so kids who are 10, 11, 12, starting to feel their oats, they don't make good decisions. I have a 12-year-old, right? And he doesn't make good decisions, right? And he's not, and I wouldn't want him being able to choose to start drinking, first of all. I would choose that for him, that he's not going to. And I certainly wouldn't want him, you know, in the driver's seat making a decision about these substances, because they are, you know, they do have effects. They do have health effects, potential health effects. They do affect your mental state and your capacity. And your, so I think it's to pretend or to contend that there shouldn't be some care and prevention towards minors using it is in my view, politically naive, and also that's farther along the line. That's a little bit more permissive than my opinion on how we should be. Others would differ.
Absolutely. You know, there are very good reasons for keeping marijuana and other substances away from minors. To lie about marijuana is, and which is what exaggeration really is, you know, is doing a disservice to any prevention efforts for minors, I believe.
Well, and you're encouraging them. You know, if you're giving them an opportunity, so you either go work for $7 an hour at McDonald's or be a dealer, right? And make a lot of money, right? And why can you make a lot of money? Because there's an arbitrage opportunity there, right? Because it's not, you know, it's not like nobody's out there, to my knowledge, or if they are, it's not a huge issue, you know, selling contraband cigarettes. You know, why? Why? Because there's not really an arbitrage opportunity there. And so yeah, with an adolescent, number one, it's the same with the PMRC. You know, let's put you know, explicit lyrics stickers on the albums. You know, so make sure they really sell. You know, that's the, you know, you're definitely ensuring that these artists that use the F-bomb all over the place are going to sell a lot of records. So yeah, if it just becomes another substance that's an adult substance, the allure and glamour at least is reduced. Humans have been getting drunk and high for at least 10,000 years. So you're not going to stop that urge, that tendency, that desire, but you're at least not going to distort things. And to say nothing of what it's a whole other topic we can get into, what it does to a young person's future to have a conviction. You know, and that's, you know, perhaps I'll stop there and we can get into that.
Well, no, I'd rather talk really about some of the more reasonable regulations that we would envision with a legal and regulated system. For example, use restrictions. You know, I mean, obviously it would still be illegal to use it while you're driving. It would, you know, there now and school issues. You know, and school and employment issues are also some other really difficult, you know, issues to come up with. Regulations that are fair and reasonable, you know, because you know right now what we have in a culture of prohibition are unreasonable regulations that people just do not pay attention to. They ignore them, they dismiss them because they're not reasonable regulations. They are not the type of regulations that Americans are willing to follow.
More and more, yeah.
You know, just prohibition is not reasonable, but to establish reasonable regulations like not using it while you drive, not using it while you're in school, unless you are a legitimate medical patient, you know, not using it on the job unless you are, you know, a legitimate medical patient. These I think are the reasonable kind of regulations that we can look at and that we can envision with a legalization model.
Certainly, and there, you know, the regulations we were talking about before were consumer safety and child safety, and this is public safety.
Right.
And it's nuts to assume or to, you know, stick your chin out to try to get some form of legalization that doesn't take account of public safety concerns and sort of almost public nuisance. I mean, there are people out there, I suppose. I don't like smelling cigarette smoke, right? And there are plenty of, I don't like breathing it either. And there are no doubt going to be people who feel the same way about marijuana smoke. And you know, everybody's familiar with the regulations. You know, you can't smoke within X feet of a public building, or, you know, I have a place summer place in Ocean City, New Jersey, and it's a dry town, quote unquote. And what that means is you can't. There's no BYOB. You know, so you know, if you can consume alcohol, but it's in your house, right? And so those are regulations that municipality by municipality people live with. Other places at the shore are, you know, you can have a liquor license where there can be a BYOB. And that is a matter, that's sort of the boundary for my money of where you can let the reins go to local regulation. You know, so I would advocate a decriminalization of it, certainly. And so if somebody's consuming it in a place where they're not supposed to, whatever fine is available, you know, if you're not supposed to go into a restaurant in Ocean City with a bottle of wine, or you're not supposed to consume it on the street, and you can get a ticket for that, you know, I think a municipality is within its rights to pass that kind of regulation. You know, that's putting it on an equal footing to other substances that I would put in the same conceptual class. I know people might differ on that, but to me, that at least strikes a balance.
Yeah. Well, there's only a bare majority who support legalization of marijuana now among the millennial generation. The support is up to 70% or 69 or 70%. So, yeah, you know, it really is a question of time rather than if, you know.
Yeah, I think this, and some people are more or less comfortable with this analogy, but to talk about a political issue that maybe a decade ago was no way that'll ever happen, gay marriage. You know, there you have a clear, in my opinion, I'm a lawyer, but a clear, you know, equal protection issue. But you had an issue that it started out legal in a patchwork of states at the state level, and then all of a sudden, as people, as the advocacy became more intelligent and focused and serious, and more people in the populace say, hey, I know someone, I have a son or daughter who is gay, or I know someone who is gay, and that's okay, and the foundation of America isn't going to crumble, all right? So you have that set in the opposition set that this is, you legalize this is the equivalent of Sodom and Gomorrah, and you know this will rot away the moral fiber of the country. And so you now have 23 states where medical marijuana is legal. You have 4 states in the District of Columbia where it's generally legal. And when you get to the tipping point where the typical, nothing against all of the many colorful and effective advocates we have for legalization that do it their own way, you know, but when it shifts to the typical advocate they show on TV is not somebody in a crazy outfit running around, and it's a person in a suit and a tie, not that there's a greater, you know, worth to that, but when that's the outward face and when that's the consistent outward face, then it's over. You know, then it happens. Then at the federal level they say, why is this on Schedule 1?
Totally
why,
inappropriate.
You know, why are we getting cops killed and DEA people killed for it? Why are we spending all this money? Why are we ruining young lives, putting convictions on their record? Philadelphia has gone to, and when I say decriminalization, I certainly want it to be legal, civilly legal, to make and produce, don't get me wrong. But in terms of where it intersects with law enforcement, right? I'm of the view that it should be a civil fine rather than a crime. So in Philadelphia, we now have you know, if you have a certain quantity and below, you get a $50 fine. Right. And what is that? That is the city council making a legislative judgment that they see what marijuana does to the community and what it doesn't do to the community. And they're balancing it against, do we want our cops out there spending all this effort? Talk to any federal judge. What's more than the majority of your docket? It's drug prosecution cases. Sure. Every federal judge will tell you that. And they're saying, you know, on balance, let's just make some money off it.
Yeah, and there's a tremendous amount of money to be made too. So thank you so much, Frank, for coming here today and
thank you.
And, talking about what legalization of marijuana will look like in New Jersey.
Well, let's hope.
For more information about the Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey, join us at our free public meetings on the second Tuesday of every month at the Lawrence Township Library in Mercer County, New Jersey, from 7 to 9 p.m. Snacks are served and all are welcome. Remember, every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, somebody's arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone's arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for cannabis.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Cada 42 segundos está uno arrestado por marihuana.
Every 42 seconds, somebody is arrested for...
Every 42 seconds, someone in this country is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana.
Every 42 seconds, someone is arrested for marijuana. It could be you.